This is a 2015 Harley-Davidson LiveWire. It's part of what was called the HackWire project, which started in 2010. What a beautiful bike this is. Let's go back and see an original video that Harley-Davidson did about the design of the original LiveWire and HackWire.
Engineer came in on my first day and set a battery pack and two wheels in third scale on my desk. It's like, what's this going to be?
There's the HackWire in the background, the LiveWire in the foreground.
My name is Ben McGinley, and I'm the manager of styling and design focused on electric vehicles at Harley-Davidson Motor Company. Did a bunch of model kits as a kid. I'd usually kind of do them wrong though, and usually at some point I'd kind of get bored with the instructions partway through and sort of do it my own way. Like as a kid, I would draw like the insides of engines or like a cross section of a car. The passion from that is what drew me to motorcycles. I ended up going to school at Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. I was able to meet the people at the Harley-Davidson Design Studio, and that's how I ended up here. Got a bunch of bikes, mostly old stuff. I got 4 bikes that run right now. I really need a bigger garage. I think that experience, like working on old stuff and being a little bit mechanical, really does help feed the work. Clay is one of my favorite parts of our process, where you really get to feel and interact with the surfaces with your own hands, and I think it brings another dimension to the product that wouldn't have if we went straight to digital to production. As a designer, you're always kind of a sponge, sort of trying to look for things to be inspired from all over the place, whether it's architecture. I'm a little bit of an architecture nerd. We go to a lot of different motorcycle shows, see what people are doing. Part of what's really challenging and really rewarding about designing motorcycles is when you have to take a lot of these kind of blue sky ideas and then start working with an engineering team and start coming up with something that's producible and it's going to perform. Where it all comes together is part of what makes it so interesting. That's why it's so exciting to do motorcycles for me.
Okay, this is Ben McGinley today. So he was at the LiveWire Experience Center in Malibu. That is a picture of him holding up the clay model of the hardwire, which he carved out of clay with his bare hands. Now, I asked him about this, and he said that I asked him if that was the exact bike that came out of clay, and he said that they made a lot of bikes. They made so many clay models, they wound up throwing some away. But he said that they make it out of clay, and then they fit various pieces to see how it's going to look and how it's going to work. Now, the important thing here is that Ben joined Harley-Davidson in 2010. He worked under Willie G. Davidson for 2 years. So Willie retired in 2012. So for 2 years, Ben was working on the hardwire project under the tutelage of Willie G. Now, Ben said that he came up with many designs for the bike, many of which Willie G rejected because they were too extreme and not reproducible at a reasonable price. Now, keep in mind that Willie G has done iconic motorcycles. He did the Springer, the Lowrider, the Cafe Racer, the V-Rod, Heritage Softail, Super Glide, and Fat Boy, just to name a few. But the hardwire, LiveWire project that he oversaw with the original design of the bike eventually morphed into this bike, which was the Harley-Davidson LiveWire, which was introduced in 2019. So the video that Ben just did, or the video that I just played, came from 2019. Now, when he was at the Malibu Experience today, I got a chance to interview him. He wouldn't let me interview him on videotape because he said he might need corporate sign-off, and I understand that. I'm kind of a radioactive guy at LiveWire sometimes, but I said to him, I said, Ben, why did you go from gas to electric design? And he said 3 things. He said, first, making design changes to gas bikes is very time-consuming and expensive because even slight changes often require recertification. So he's talking about, the certification in the United States and Europe and all these different countries, pollution controls, more and more strict, a lot of different standards have to be met. It's becoming incredibly expensive and time-consuming to do this on gas bikes, and a hotshot design person like Ben doesn't doesn't like that. He wants to be involved in things that he can take to market faster. Second thing he said was, electric bike design allows me more flexibility in where I place the various components of a motorcycle. And he was, talking about gas tanks, exhaust pipes, and all this kind of thing. And I kind of got the feeling that he was really talking about some crazy stuff. So who knows what the future brings, but he thought that the electric bike design gives him more flexibility. And then lastly, he said a bunch of us got together as a group and talked about it and decided to make the jump to LiveWire. Now, Ben is currently working for Van Strader. Van Strader is full-time at LiveWire. Ben is full-time at LiveWire, and the whole group is. And I have a feeling that Vance, who, I've said in previous videos, is, probably the premier motorcycle engineer in the world right now. I think he's the one probably that was the impetus for bringing the team over, getting everybody together at LiveWire. That's a guess on my part, but it seems like he's the guy that attracted the top engineers and the top design people that are working at LiveWire. So anyway, I'm going to give Ben McGinley the last word in this video. This is a short clip from what he said to us as a group today at the Malibu Experience.
So what's the toughest design challenges when you're going from your history around gas-powered bikes into electric? What are the design challenges that you have to meet? They're the toughest ones.
Yeah. Batteries are hard. It's hard to make batteries look good. It's like a big mass, a big chunk in the middle of the bike, and the easiest thing to do might be able to make like a big rectangle out of it or something, but we always try to make sure that we shape the pack around the rider and around the motorcycle. But it's a really different challenge than a gas bike, right? Like you have to fit a lot of cells in, especially if you want to run a lot of range like a LiveWire one. So that's a big shift in the kind of challenge that you'd see from gas going to electric.
And on the battery, in the dimensional creativity, what about cooling? What do you think about cooling, and how do you keep those batteries cool? Liquid, air, combination. What's your thoughts there?
It's a big piece of the shape and the layout of it, right? Like we're working on Del Mar, of course, and the S2 platform is an air-cooled battery, and we've laid the cells out in such a way that the cells point out, and the cells they're cooled by the connection with the case, and so that's a big piece of why the cells go where they go, why the pack is the shape that it is, why it has the fins on the outside. So cooling is definitely a consideration, and we work really closely with the engineering and the technical teams. I mean, we make sure that the shape is good and it fits the rider and it looks beautiful, but we also work with them really closely to make sure that it works super well and it's incredibly reliable and it cools like it should.
Yeah. Even the bodywork, when you look at Del Mar, like the intakes in the side, like a lot of that was very like thought out to assist in a lot of that pulling air in, pulling a lot of the heat out of the battery cells.
Yeah.
So
it becomes a part of the look and the aesthetic too, right? Like airflow and like fins, and it makes
the styling it comes from Willie G. I mean, it has to look as good as it rides.
Function drives a lot.
Yeah.
Of that, right?
Yeah, we still use, there's a Willie G phrase, right, that we still use, and it's form follows function, but both report to emotion, and we still take that very seriously.
A lot of people don't know, and I kind of posted this a couple of weeks ago on the forum, is Willie G is on the patent with you of the LiveWire. I mean, he's a styling king on that, so it's crazy.
That was his last bike before he retired, is that correct? He retired in 2012?
Yeah, Willie retired in 2012. I had a couple of years of overlap working under him in the studio, and some of the first prototypes were developed like within the studio that Willie led.
So he was really, the electric bike was his last design step before he retired. Would
There's
that be
other
fair to
bikes
say?
as well. Yeah. I'd have to look at the exact chronology because we were doing a lot of different things at that time, but it was one of the bikes.
Yeah.